We steal the waves in the air, and we never give them back. We are.
We are.
We are.
We are. We are.
We are.
Lofi Poli Sci. Yes, we are. Lofi Poli Sci podcast coming at you with that Thursday edition of your Lofi-Global news. Talking about that famous question, what's going on in the world today? And straight to it, let's head on over to the Caribbean and the island nation of Cuba. So what's been happening there lately? Well, to go back a few years, just to bring everyone up to speed, the Castro brothers that long ruled Cuba since the mid-1900s, Fidel and Raul, well, they both left power years ago. And they showed by doing that Cuba wasn't going to be a family dynasty country. A small step in some people's minds, but an important one for sure. I mean, just look at North Korea, a family dynasty. By the Castros leaving power, it showed that Cuba wasn't going to go down that same road. But then within the past couple of years, the government decided to rewrite the country's constitution, and some pretty important small steps were taken in that rewriting as well, though we're not going to go into detail here, but still, more small steps. Then within the last year, the government announced that most economic industries will be going or will be allowed to privatize, meaning the government was giving up controlling or rather owning a lot of the economy. A pretty big step if you ask me. And then this week, the government announces that these private businesses will now be able to have up to 100 employees, meaning allowing for bigger and bigger private companies, and leading in the direction of, perhaps, even corporations one day. You see, connecting all of these dots over time, which when looking at any one of these by themselves, it may not seem like much, but together, we see Cuba's been changing over these past few years, and their economy is surely going more capitalistic and free. Now, this trend, this pattern, it is not destined to continue. It only continues if the Cuban government decides it does. But me, I'm going to keep a lo-fi lookout on Cuba moving forward. Now let's head west just a little bit on over to Mexico. And oh, Mexico, you always get a bad rap, my friend. If it's not about the cartels and drugs, it's about government corruption or how dangerous it is for journalists in the country. And this one we're about to talk about, sadly, it's about all three. You see, a really well-known TV anchor and journalist in Mexico was threatened by one of the largest and most dangerous cartels in the country. And a video was recorded by the cartels, and it was published and put out there, and they straight came after this person by name and their organization. And it's all about the coverage that the media organization gives the cartel. You see, the cartel think they're being treated unfairly, and that the biased coverage is going out in favor of a vigilante self-defense group that opposes the cartel. And because of that biased coverage, the cartels are making threats. What the hell? I mean, really, cartels? What do you expect? Media to be all sunshine and rainbows about what you do? I mean, come on now. But the government has stepped in, and the president of Mexico has said they will provide protection directly for the TV anchor journalist, which is cool and definitely the right move to make by the government. You know, they can't just allow the cartels to make videos threatening people's lives. But this brings us back to government corruption and the cartel's influence inside of all levels of government agencies in Mexico. I mean, there's a strong argument to be made that government protection may not offer the journalist anything in the form of a benefit. You know, Reporters Without Borders, an international organization that ranks countries by their level of media freedoms, which we just talked about on Tuesday's Top 10 list. They rank Mexico number 143 out of 180 countries and territories in the world. 143, and Mexico's a democracy, mind you. And let me tell you something, Lo-Fi listeners. You don't get that low as far as media freedom, and in particular, dangers to media personnel in a country without a complicit government. And we'll be definitely keeping a lo-fi lookout to see what happens next. And we'll let you know more moving forward. All right, people, now it's time for a brand new segment to our Thursday edition of the Lofi-Global News. It's Thursday Trivia Day. Oh, yeah, that's right. We're going to see just how much you know about the world we live in. And keep score at home to see how much of that lo-fi loot you get today. And don't forget to add it to yesterday's loot as well from the game. And to see, overall, your weekly total so you can tell your friends just how smart you are about what's going on in the world. All right, you'll get 5 to 10 seconds to answer each question. Let's hit it. Number 1, what's the newest country in the world? Oh, I love this question. Such a great question for cocktail parties if you want to look cool. Or nerdy, either one. I dig it all the same. And 3, 2, 1. And if you said South Sudan, you are absolutely right. Question number 2, though. What year did South Sudan become a country? If you are at that cocktail party and you are using the South Sudan trick to dazzle everyone with how smart you are, pay attention. Because the second you say South Sudan, someone is gonna ask you, well, when did they actually become a country? Gotta know both in order to look all cool like. And 3, 2, 1. South Sudan became a country in 2011, just 10 years ago. Question number 3 now, a little fun one for you, easy one, but important for us. What does Lofi, as in Lofi Poli Sci, stand for? And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Low fidelity, because we love life's imperfections. Question number 4. How many oceans are there in the world? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There's 4. 4 damn oceans in the world. Unless you like to take a minority opinion and be all brainwashed by the U.S. government and the IHO, which most countries are not a part of. Now you know. And our last question of the day. How many countries are there in the world? Oh, this is such a juicy one. And frankly, way more important than how many oceans there are. Because you can argue oceans all day long. Truth is, geologically speaking, there's only one ocean. But countries, how many countries are there in the world? And try this today. Ask people that question and see, just see the crazy different answers people give you. You will be so surprised. But for now, let's see what you think. And 3, 2, 1. And if you said about 200 countries in the world, then you got it. There are officially 193 United Nations member states, but there are quite a few countries out there that are debated, so to speak. Examples? Taiwan, Palestine, Somaliland, Transnistria, just to name a few. So about 200 countries in the world, give or take a few depending on who you ask. And now you know. And remember, keep track of that lo-fi loot to add to next week's score as well, so you can have a Season 4 total to potentially get those lo-fi prizes at the end. We'll see how that goes. Now, let's head to, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, but let's head to the United States. Oh, I know it hurts me even to say it, so out of the norm for me, but hey, you'll see. Just wait for it. So the White House has announced, as well as the State Department, that on December 9th and 10th, the president will hold a virtual democracy summit with world leaders from democracies and civil societies from everywhere. And there are 3 major themes at this summit. Number 1, defending against authoritarianism. Number 2, fighting corruption. And number 3, promoting respect for human rights. And to quote the whitehouse.gov website directly on the upcoming Democracy Summit, because we all want to know who's going to be there and what's going on, begin quote. Summits will bring together heads of state, civil society, philanthropy, and the private sector, serving as an opportunity for world leaders to listen to one another and to their citizens, to share successes, drive international collaboration, and speak honestly about the challenges facing democracy so as to collectively strengthen the foundation for democratic renewal. End quote. Well, hell, it sounds like they've been listening to me bitching for over the past year, but forgot to invite me. And ain't no room for academics or lo-fi global news people here, it seems, oh no. But we ain't mad. But we are really interested to see who shows up to these summits. We'll let you know as we find out. And now, a last piece of news to send you on your way for the day. To the United Nations we go, and the climate report just released by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And this report is the first UN report on climate change since 2013. So it's a pretty big deal. And what did they find? Shit's still messed up, but there is hope. Of course, they found out a lot more details and stuff, but you can check out the report for yourself, and you should. But the important part I want to focus on is combining this idea of hope, the idea of the U.S. rejoining the Paris Climate Accords, and what it all means for the likelihood of success. You see, scientists do think we have a chance if we act together as a global community, and I agree. And I think the Paris Climate Accords is a true global pact with that goal in mind. However, much of the scientific community has come down hard, on the climate accords, as simply not enough. And I, too, once again, tend to agree with that. You see, it is possible for us to do what we gotta do to stop global warming. But the Paris Climate Accords lacks any teeth at all. You know who sets countries' yearly goals? They do. You know who checks to see if they make those goals? They do. You know who punishes countries if they don't meet those goals? No one. You know what the requirement is for the next year's goals? Just do a little more than the year before. And what if you barely did anything the year before? Well, then you still just have to do a little bit more than barely anything. But if you don't make it, don't worry, because nothing happens. You see, it's that weak-ass political structure of the institutions that are the Paris Climate Accords that worries scientists the most. Yes, the Accords are a good platform to get everyone to work together. But we need to do more than just that. We need bigger commitments from members of the Accords. And we need everyone to meet those commitments year after year. Now, if that happens, well, then we got this. And the sciencey folk that we all love so much, well, they say we got this too. And that, my friends, is good news indeed on this Thursday. And that's a brief snapshot of what's going on in the world today. Issue 10 of Letters of the Lofi Poli Sci came out Saturday. Get at me to be added to the emailing list. Our theme, does anyone really read? And do you have top 10 list ideas for us for next week? Send them on in. Do you have good news to share for Good News Fridays? You better share it with us, please, please. Always remember that Lofi Poli Sci is more than just me. It's the we that we be. Peace and well-being to all my human beings out there. Much love and always the best. Pickering, signing off.